In the dim, flickering candlelight of a 17th-century manor house, the bedchamber was not the sanctuary of rest and comfort we know today, but a chamber of shadows, secrets, and silent terrors. Imagine yourself crossing the threshold into this claustrophobic chamber, where the heavy curtains, dark tapestries, and polished woodwork seemed to swallow what little light dared to enter. The air was thick not just with the scent of beeswax and perfumed oils, but with something far darker, the unseen menace that clung invisibly to every surface, every thread of the worn bed linens, every fold of the brocade. To the untrained eye, the bedchamber might appear regal, fit for a noble lord or lady, resplendent with ornate furniture and opulent decorations. Yet beneath this veneer of grandeur lay a place fraught with danger, an intimate arena where the fragility of human life met the lurking specters of disease, superstition, and human cruelty. The very bed you would hope to find solace in was often the very stage of silent suffering, where the chill of death crept closer with every breath. The story begins with Lord Alistair Gray, a man of considerable wealth and influence, whose chambers became infamous, not for their luxury, but for the horrors that befell those who dared to share his nights. Lord Gray's obsession with health and purity led him to embrace the dubious medical wisdom of his time, filling his bedchamber with bizarre remedies and strange talismans meant to guard against the invisible threats of miasmas and spirits. The walls were adorned with herbs hung in heavy bunches, dried and fading, intended to cleanse the air. Jars of concoctions, some pungent, others bitter and foul, lined the shelves, their contents a mystery of alchemy and desperation. Yet these measures were futile against the true horrors lurking within the walls. Bedbugs, lice, cliffed the relentless legions of parasites that thrived in the damp fabric and worn seams of the mattresses and bedclothes. These tiny creatures feasted on the blood of the sleeping, their bites causing itching so savage that sleep became a distant memory, replaced by the maddening torment of scratching and the slow decline into sickness. One servant, young Thomas, was tasked with cleaning the chambers each morning. His stories, whispered among other servants late at night, spoke of waking to find his own skin crawling with invisible armies, of restless, haunted dreams fueled by exhaustion and infection. His fate was sealed by the fevers that followed, raging through his body until the bedchamber claimed him, as it had so many before. But the bedchamber's dangers were not confined to the physical. Superstition cast long shadows here, and the people of the 17th century were gripped by a paralyzing fear of spirits and curses. A single cough in the dead of night could send a shudder through the household, a sign that a restless ghost prowled the halls. Lord Grey himself believed his chambers were haunted by the restless spirit of a jilted lover, a woman who had died alone and despairing, her presence marked by the cold spots and eerie noises that terrified even the bravest guests. To protect himself, Lord Grey commissioned strange rituals, smoke from burning herbs, whispered prayers at midnight, and the hanging of protective charms fashioned from bone and sinew. Yet, these acts of desperation seemed only to deepen the sense of dread, weaving a tapestry of fear that blanketed the room like a suffocating fog. As night deepened, the bedchamber transformed into a crucible of primal terror. The quiet rustle of the curtains, the creak of ancient floorboards, and the distant howl of the wind beyond the stone walls fused into a symphony of unease. The mind, weary from battling relentless pests and haunted by unseen presences, conjured visions of shadows reaching out from the darkness, whispering secrets of death and madness. And then came the cold, a biting chill that seeped through the heavy draperies, wrapping around the sleeper like a shroud. It was not just the cold of the weather outside, but a cold born of the room's long history, an echo of suffering and loss that clung to the very timbers. Those who lingered too long in Lord Grey's bedchamber found their bodies stiffening, their breaths shallow, their hearts pounding with a terror that could not be soothed by prayers or potions. This was no mere night's discomfort. This was a battle for survival in a place where the boundary between life and death was razor thin, where the simplest act of resting became a gamble against an invisible enemy. The bedchamber was a stage upon which fate played its cruelest tricks, turning the sanctuary of sleep into a chamber of dread. Yet, for all its horrors, life continued within these walls, a testament to human endurance amidst the encroaching darkness. Lords and ladies, servants and strangers alike, braved the night with grim determination, weaving their stories of fear and resilience into the haunted fabric of the manor. And so, As the candles guttered low and the hour grew late, the bedchamber waited, silent, patient, and merciless. A place where you would not last the night, where the whispers of the past entwined with the present, warning all who dared to close their eyes that the night was long, and mercy was a forgotten word. As dawn's feeble light struggled to pierce the gloom, the bedchamber's heavy veil of darkness reluctantly lifted, revealing the aftermath of a night spent locked in a silent war between man and unseen horrors. The shadows that danced so malevolently the night before retreated into the crevices of the ornate moldings, leaving behind the cold, oppressive silence that clung to the chamber like a suffocating fog. But the dread lingered, etched into every splintered floorboard and faded tapestry, mute witness to the suffering endured beneath the gilded canopy of the great bed. Lord Alistair Gray awoke with a start, beads of cold sweat tracing rivulets down his pallid face. His dreams were haunted by the wails of those he had known, whispers of betrayal and despair entwined with the scratching torment of unseen vermin. His once pristine nightshirt was marred with the telltale signs of nocturnal assault's tiny blood spots, a rash of angry bites blossoming across his flesh, yet he would not concede defeat. The Lord's obsession with health was matched only by his desperation to conquer the invisible enemy that claimed so many. That morning, the servants approached the chamber with quiet trepidation. Thomas, now pallid and trembling, whispered of the cursed bedclothes, of threads teeming with life that feasted upon human blood. The chambermaid's eyes darted nervously to the dark corners, as if expecting to find the creatures waiting hungrily. They spoke in hushed tones of the bed's terrible history. Rumors passed down like poison, a place where the dead and dying had lingered too long, where the walls had absorbed the agony of countless souls. One old nurse, Martha, told tales of the maggot beds, a grim term whispered in fearful reverence. These were not mere beds but death traps, where bodies decomposed beneath the covers, unnoticed until the stench became unbearable. In such chambers, the line between living and dead blurred. The bed itself became a tomb, a macabre cradle where life ebbed away unnoticed. Such stories chilled even the bravest hearts, yet the aristocracy clung to these same beds, wrapped in their brocade finery, believing the trappings of wealth and status could shield them from decay. Lord Grey's desperation led him to employ increasingly grotesque methods. He summoned the local barber surgeon, a man named Ezekiel Crane, whose reputation for dark arts and dubious remedies stretched far beyond the county's borders. Ezekiel's arrival brought a new terror to the bedchamber. His hands, calloused and stained, wielded instruments that gleamed wickedly under candlelight, sharp hooks, pincers, and serrated blades intended not for healing, but for exorcising the unseen parasites by force. The surgeon's crude attempts to purify the chamber bordered on madness. He sliced into the heavy mattress, uprooting nests of insects, while the Lord sat trembling, watching as his sanctuary was desecrated. But the true horror came not from the surgeon's tools, but from the rumors that Ezekiel had begun experimenting with a sinister new cure. Whispers spoke of boiling oils poured onto the bedding, tinctures made from crushed bones and venomous herbs, applied to the flesh and even the binding of small animals within the mattress itself, hoping their suffering might draw out the curse. One fateful night, Ezekiel introduced his most unthinkable device. Stitched within the seams of the bedclothes, he had sewn the bodies of rats alive, writhing creatures intended to devour the pests that plagued the chamber. The idea was as cruel as it was bizarre, a grim trial born from the madness that desperation can breed. But these rats were not the mere vermin they seemed. Their teeth, sharpened and bloodied, were instruments of horror unleashed upon both parasite and human alike. The poor souls who slept in the bed soon found themselves besieged by new terrors, scratches deeper than mere bites, the sickening sensation of something gnawing beneath the skin. The chamber became a crucible of pain and despair. Those who entered found themselves trapped between worlds neither fully alive nor dead, racked with fever, hallucination, and a maddening itch that drove some to madness. Thomas, once a spirited youth, was reduced to a raving shell, his body a canvas of sores and bites. His cries echoed through the halls, a chilling reminder of the bedchamber's malevolence. Even Lord Grey, whose will had once seemed indomitable, was not spared. His obsession became a curse, each night spent battling invisible foes that tore at his flesh and sanity alike. But as if the physical torment was not enough, the psychological grip tightened. The bedchamber, steeped in superstition and fear, became a stage for dark visions. The restless spirit of the jilted lover, rumored to haunt the manor, was said to manifest here, her mournful cries drifting through the night. Her cold breath felt upon the neck of any who dared linger too long. Guests spoke of seeing shadows flicker in the corners, of waking to whispers, and cold hands brushing their skin. Madness took root in these haunted walls, a poison more potent than any venom or bite. In this theater of agony, time itself seemed to twist and warp. Hours bled into one another, each moment heavier than the last. The candle flames guttered and danced like specters, casting grotesque shapes upon the chamber walls. The oppressive stillness was shattered only by the frantic scratching of unseen insects, the shuddering breaths of the afflicted, and the distant, sorrowful howl of the wind outside. Despite the mounting horrors, the bedchamber was a place of terrible allure. Its opulence and mystery drew the curious and the foolhardy, those who believed in the power of wealth and status to protect them from the darkness. Yet all who entered became ensnared in its websome, succumbing quickly to the physical torments. Others trapped in a spiral of fear and madness. The bedchamber was no longer merely a room. It was a prison, a crucible of suffering, a testament to the fragility of the human body and mind. As dawn approached again, the chamber awaited its next occupant with patient cruelty. The invisible war would begin anew, the legacy of pain and despair etched ever deeper into its fabric. For in the 17th century, the bedchamber was no sanctuary, was a battleground where survival was measured in moments, and death lurked patiently in every shadow. The sun's feeble rays struggled to cast away the sinister veil that had descended over Lord Alistair Gray's bedchamber. The once grand chamber, adorned with heavy tapestries woven with gold and crimson, now felt suffocating, as if the very air had turned rancid with despair and decay. Each morning brought with it not relief, but a deeper plunge into torment, a cycle of suffering that seemed endless, unyielding. Like a curse born from the darkest corners of human folly and desperation, the night had become a battlefield where flesh fought against unseen vermin and twisted madness. A war waged not just on the body, but on the soul itself. Lord Gray's eyes, once bright with pride and vitality, now shone dull and haunted, reflecting the hollow agony that consumed him. The mirror in his chamber mocked him daily, revealing a visage ravaged by sores and pale shadows, a face worn thin by fevered nights and broken dreams. The bedclothes, once symbols of luxury and comfort, were now a battleground stained with blood and sweat, festering with horrors too unspeakable for daylight. The surgeon Ezekiel Crane's grotesque experiments continued unabatedly. His obsession with curing the chamber's pestilence grew more reckless and macabre by the day. It was said he spent hours weaving small, live creatures into the bedding rats with sharpened teeth, insects trapped alive, their frantic struggles woven into the fabric as a kind of dark talisman against the blight. Ezekiel's methods defied reason and morality. He was a man consumed by the very darkness he sought to banish, a shadow of madness creeping behind the mask of science. One fateful evening, Ezekiel introduced a new horror he stitched into the mattress: dozens of tiny pouches filled with crushed bones, venomous herbs, and strange powders concocted from secretive alchemical texts. These pouches, designed to poison the pests and the afflicted alike, released noxious fumes that filled the chamber with a choking miasma. Those who dared to lie upon the bed found themselves gasping for breath, their skin blistering and their senses drowned in hallucinations that blurred the lines between reality and nightmare. It was during this period that Lord Gray's mental state began to unravel irreparably. He became a prisoner of his own chamber, tormented by visions of the very creatures that gnawed at his flesh. In his fevered dreams, the walls wept blood, and the bed seemed to pulse with the life of its own, a monstrous entity that fed on suffering and despair. He spoke to phantoms, whispered secrets to shadows, and recoiled from the touch of his own attendants, convinced that they were agents of the curse. The servants, too, bore the marks of the chamber's malevolence. Thomas, once a spirited youth, had succumbed to a slow descent into madness and disease. His skin, marred by countless bites and scars, was a living map of the chamber's torment. His eyes, wild and unseeing, wandered the halls at odd hours, muttering incoherent prayers and curses. Other servants spoke of strange noises emanating from the chamber at night, the scratching of claws against wood, guttural growls, and the soft, unsettling whisper of voices that no one else could hear. Despite these horrors, the manor's nobility remained captivated by the chamber's allure. Whispers of its supposed powers circulated in hushed tones at courtails of a bed so exquisite and rare that it conferred a strange kind of immortality to those who dared to rest upon it. Some claimed that the chamber was enchanted, imbued with the essence of long-dead saints and martyrs whose suffering purified those who lay there. Others believed it a place of dark magic, where the lines between life and death blurred and the soul was tested by fire. It was into this cauldron of fear and fascination that Lady Eleanor Grey entered one fateful night. The Lord's young wife, fresh from her journey across distant lands, was warned in no uncertain terms of the bedchamber's cursed reputation, but curiosity, or perhaps a desperate desire to prove her strength, overcame her fear. Draped in silk and lace, she stepped into the room where countless had suffered and perished, her footsteps echoing through the cold chamber like a fragile heartbeat in the silence. That night, Lady Eleanor became the chamber's newest victim. She was found hours later, writhing in agony, her skin blistered and her body racked with fever. The whispered rumors among the servants spoke of unnatural scratches marks, too precise to be the work of mere insects, as if some malevolent force had torn at her flesh with cruel intent. Her cries shattered the stillness, a mournful song that echoed through the halls and chilled the hearts of even the bravest. The once proud Lord Grey was shattered by his wife's suffering, his mind fractured, torn between guilt and despair. He locked himself within the chamber, refusing to leave its accursed walls, as if seeking some perverse communion with the torment that consumed them both. His attendants whispered of nights spent watching him claw at the bedclothes, his screams mingling with the scratching noises, blurring man and beast into one tortured form. Yet even as the chamber claimed its victims, the mysteries surrounding it deepened. Strange symbols began to appear carved into the woodwork, faint and indecipherable, their meaning lost to time but heavy with dark portent. Visitors spoke of fleeting shadows shaped like wings, of icy draughts that whispered ancient curses. The manor itself seemed to breathe with a malevolent life, its very foundations soaked in the anguish of those who had suffered within. As the seasons turned, the bedchamber's legend grew, a sinister tale whispered in the courts and taverns alike. The chamber was no longer simply a room but a living nightmare, a place where the very fabric of reality was twisted by pain, madness, and dark magic. Its walls held secrets no living soul dared unravel, and those who crossed its threshold faced a fate worse than death, eternal torment in the grip of an unseen predator. Thus, the story of Lord Alistair Grey's bedchamber stands as a chilling testament to human folly, the desperate lengths to which one might go to escape decay, only to embrace a far worse fate. The bed, once a symbol of rest and reprieve, became an altar of suffering, where flesh and spirit were consumed in a dance of agony. It is a cautionary tale, whispered through history's shadows, a reminder that some darkness is not meant to be challenged, and some curses are eternal. The relentless grip of the cursed bedchamber tightened with each passing night, as if it drew strength from the very suffering it inflicted. The manors once celebrated, halls now whispered only despair, and those who dared to linger nearby spoke of a malevolent aura, a dark shroud that clung to the estate like a living spectre. Lord Alistair Grey, the man who had sought salvation within the poisoned sheets, was now but a hollow shell, his mind shattered, his body ravaged by torment beyond mortal comprehension. As winter's cruel breath howled through the barren trees, the bedchamber's infamy reached the ears of distant scholars and occultists drawn by rumors of a place where science and sorcery wove a tapestry of unimaginable horror. Among them was Dr. Erasmus Blackwood, a physician rumored to delve into forbidden knowledge, whose arrival was met with equal parts dread and fascination. He came not as a healer but as a seeker of truth, determined to unravel the secrets that had devoured the lives of so many. Dr. Blackwood's investigations revealed a nightmare woven into the very fabric of the bed. The stitching that held the rats and insects, the alchemical powders that clouded the air, and the dark symbols carved into the wood were part of an ancient, twisted ritual, one designed to trap the souls of the afflicted, feeding a malevolent force that dwelled in the shadows between life and death. The bed was no mere object. It was a prison, a gateway to a realm where pain and madness reigned supreme. In a final, desperate attempt to break the curse, Dr. Blackwood sought to burn the bedchamber, to reduce its horrors to ash and free the souls trapped within. But as flames licked the walls and smoke filled the air, a terrible scream echoed, a sound that seemed to come from the very bowels of the earth. a wail of anguish that shook the manor to its core. The fire consumed much, but the bed itself resisted, burning with an unnatural fury before collapsing into a smoldering heap of charred wood and twisted metal. The manor was abandoned soon after, left to the ravages of time and nature. Travelers told tales of a ruined estate haunted by restless spirits, where the air was thick with sorrow and the faintest whisper of scratching beneath the floorboards. The legend of Lord Alistair Gray's bedchamber became a ghost story, a warning of the darkness that dwells within the human heart and the dangers of tampering with forces beyond understanding. Centuries later, fragments of the manor's history survive only in cryptic journals and tattered letters, relics of a time when ambition and fear converged to create a nightmare beyond imagining. The story endures a haunting echo through the corridors of history, reminding us that some beds are not meant for rest, and some nights are too dark to survive.